Hello everyone, this is Crota giving you game 2 in a series between Liquid HayprO and Adelscott. Game 1 was on Metalopolis, and HayprO just falling to the wayside to Adelscott's 8-gate push on that game on Metalopolis. A really just heavy aggression game by Adelscott, opening up my eyes in terms of just what Protoss macro could be. And that was just an amazing push. Now Adelscott going to go ahead and set up a 9 pylon over here in just a moment. May do it on the low ground, as that is what he did in that first game. And what is going to be the position? He may be trying to do it over here. If he does a 9 pylon over here, it will create a very tight choke point. Oh, now going for a 10 pylon. So now moving out with this probe. And as Adelscott should be pulling off one of these probes in just a moment. However, he will be behind economically, as that pylon will not be completed for quite some time. And now Adelscott currently supply locked at 10/10. Back over here, HayprO now quickly at 13/18 has a significant economic advantage, and now getting this gateway over here. So back over here, we do see now chrono boosting that probe, and now we'll be trying to get a stronger economic advantage, trying to catch up in terms of the macro that Liquid HayprO may be able to do. You can see the harvester count 13 compared to 11, so there's already some discrepancy there, as HayprO able to mine what appears to be about 20% faster than Adelscott. Adelscott not chrono boosting his Nexus, so he may be saving that for this gateway over here, trying to do a very early push. HayprO now coming in with this Overlord, and now this probe trying to do some just harassment over here. HayprO does not have enough for a hatchery just quite yet, just has that drone over there for harassment. That probe trying to regenerate some of those shields, and then may try to zap back. Yeah, so able to zap back, fight a little bit more, and then is it going to micro enough? And now down goes that drone. No, down to 3 hit points and able to barely escape there. Back over here, we do see some overlords now trying to do some scouting, trying to figure out where exactly that pylon and that gateway is. In comes another drone, and a pylon already being placed in. So now HayprO will be forced to run off of one base. Will he try to place that hatchery somewhere else? That is the question. As this spawning pool has been completed, we should see a queen, and now a lot of Zerglings being trained. Back over here, this pylon has been finished and is going to stay there. So this drone needs to start pecking away at this pylon. Zerglings will be joining in just a moment, as we now have some zealots joining in on this fight, and we now get a forge on the front door. So this will be a complete front door seal. Back over here, we now have one zealot running past 6 Zerglings, and that zealot is going to have a very bad day into the zealot afterlife in just a moment. Trying to get a nice surround there. Adelscott finally fighting back, but a loss of 100 minerals quickly by that one zealot. Zealot not even getting 1 kill there. We do have an overlord here, and that gateway no longer producing any additional units. Back over here, we are chrono boosting off of this Nexus, but no assimilator play yet, so we are not going to get any sort of warp in. We do have 1 Zergling and 1 drone slowly pecking their way at this pylon. Back over here, we now have some Zerglings going to run around the corner, as well as we now have 1 photon cannon being warped in. Is that I do not think there's enough of a positioning. Oh, there is no, barely. It looks like there should be enough, but no, Zergling's unable to squeeze by there. So that is absolutely critical that those units cannot push back. There is 1 zealot, and that zealot needs to be very careful, trying to push himself up against a wall so that those Zerglings are unable to get any sort of surround off. And that zealot was able to get some kills, and now trying to deal damage towards that gateway. However, the shields are too much. Those shields will be able to recharge, and with 1 photon cannon, Adelscott has a decent protection there. Back over here, we now have destructible rocks now being taken down by these Zerglings. However, those Zerglings are going to have a difficult time trying to take down these rocks because of these 3 armor on these rocks. So these Zerglings are only dealing 2 damage per attack, a 60% damage reduction. We do have 1 pylon over here, so maybe able to warp in more units, even I guess place in 1 cannon right here to try to protect these destructible rocks as well. Back over here, gateway, no weapons upgrade yet, and we do have 1 assimilator finally being warped in, and now finally that cybernetics core. So Zerglings slowly trying to make their way through over here. As this hatchery nearly completed, a queen now walking over. Drone's going to start mining out of here as well. That hatchery going to take an additional 10 units of time, as these Zerglings now going to make their way through this first set of rocks. There is another hatchery being placed down over here by HayprO. So HayprO will be able to mine out of this gold high yield mineral location. Probes now being transferred over as well. So Adelscott trying to catch up in this economic game. You can see he's behind at 19 compared to 27, as this Nexus is just going to be completed. So this Nexus now finished warping in, will be able to start mining more and more. And we'll see if he starts to chrono boost more. There is 1 photon cannon there, so that photon cannon was able to get off 2 kills and these destructible rocks will stay in position until we get some roaches. Back over here, the hatchery is still almost completed. We are still at tier 1. So Liquid HayprO still at tier 1 at this stage in the game, but now starting to use these creep tumors to spread creep across the map and be able to get faster movement speed for those Zerglings, Roaches, and all ground walkings and Zerg units. Back over here, we do have the Cybernetics Core, and now going into the heavy gateway strategy that Adelscott used on Metalopolis. Currently warping in 2 more gateways. We should see even more in just a moment, as Adelscott now mining more and more. You can take a look at the harvester count, finally catching up just a little bit as he's chrono boosting off of these 2 Nexi, or Nexuses here, and now we're going to get 1 photon cannon in the base. I guess he's suspecting some sort of Mutalisk play, but no Mutalisk yet, as we are not at tier 2 yet. So we are now going into a Zergling Roach army. So it might end up being a Hydra Roach, not 100% sure just quite yet, as these roaches now starting to move out, or as these drones now being transferred over here. Army-wise, we have 250 for HayprO, 125 for Adelscott. So Adelscott in a very defensive position, has getting more pylons, getting more gateways over here, so hiding these gateways all across these positions. So we are now going to be running off of 5 gateways in just a moment as the level 1 weapons upgrade nearing completion. 1 Stalker was able to shoo away that Overlord down to 29 hit points, as more probes now still being trained. We are now going off of 4 assimilators, so Adelscott will be able to get an even heavier gas economy in just a moment. We should be seeing a pylon. I would suspect some sort of pylon into this position as well to be able to warp in units on the far side. This is a very, very tight position to warp in any additional units as the gateway research has been completed. So you can see now gateways have been completed, currently running off of 5 warp gates and continuing to just macro up more and more units. HayprO, however, going to get a stronger economy in just a moment, sitting at 1750 almost, as he's mining these high yield mineral locations and now getting some spine crawlers as well. Back over here, Roaches and Zerglings continuing to be produced as we now get a robotics facility. Robotics facility most likely for Immortals or Colossi. Colossi, a very strong counter towards Zerglings and Roaches. We'll see what exactly Adelscott's going to be going for. Most likely an Observer first, as he does have a fair amount of gas right there, sitting on 600 gas almost, and he's not really producing that many gas units. Taking a look at over here, yeah, 1 robotics facility, should be training up an Observer in just a moment. Are we going to get the robotics support, robotics bay, and as well? So now continuing the chrono boost more and more. We do have a lot of sentries, and how is he going to be able to push out of here? I cannot believe that he would try to take down his own forge, taking down the own forge as it's being researched. So he'll be forced to take down his own warp gate, or try to press and take down these destructible rocks. There is an army of Roaches and Zerglings waiting for them over here. 1 Observer now being trained, robotics bay now being trained as well. So here comes this Observer. We do have more warp gates and this robotics bay, and Adelscott really needs to start saving up some gas in order to train up any of these Colossi. Colossi, a very, very gas intensive unit, especially if you want that extended thermal lance upgrade, which is so critical for those Colossi. The gateway was in fact taken down as these Zealots and Sentries now move out, and 1 pylon now being warped in on this low ground. Back over here, there is an army of Roaches and Zerglings. We do have some some sentries for some Guardian shields. Is it going to be enough to try to stop any of that Roach damage? As these Stalkers now quickly move out, Zealots have that level 1 weapon to upgrade. No Twilight Council, so there's not going to be any sort of charge. As these Stalkers now moving in, able to take down a lot of these drones already. Zerglings trying to come in and reinforce here. In comes that Guardian shield, and now that Spine Crawler going to get quickly taken down as those Roaches now scampering in as well. Zealots trying to pull back, but this army fight is going to be very difficult as Roaches have a significant movement speed. Guardian Shield does not help too much against those Roaches, as it's a base 16 damage, only down to 14, not too much. Zealots now getting torn apart there. So Stalkers against Roaches as they continue to fight. More Roaches continue to push through as these Stalkers are now trying to use that move and attack, trying to use that higher movement speed off of creep, not throwing down any force fields. That was a really big surprise. Force fields trying to trap off any sort of escape on those Roaches would have been enough. That Zelnaga Watchtower, however, being activated by these Roaches, and now now knowing that these Stalkers are being forced to pull back here, we should be seeing a Nexus now being warped in, as we are also getting a photon cannon here. 1 Overseer sitting over here, and now we are getting those Colossi with that extended thermal lance upgrade. Income wise, we are sitting on 18, almost 2,000 for Liquid HayprO compared to 1,500 for Adelscott. Army wise, continuing to just warp in more and more units. Stalkers getting a little bit caught. However, there is one Colossus, and that Colossus will be able to help significantly in that fight. Level 1 weapons upgrade, so almost able to single shot any sort of those units there. But the weapons upgrade not going to be able to, level 2 weapons upgrade will not be researched as there is no Twilight Council. Those Colossus really need that level 2 weapons upgrade to be able to single swipe and take down those Zerglings. Oh, in comes a force field trying to stop any sort of reinforcements. However, Zealots do not have Zealot charge, so do not move that quickly. Stalkers, Zealots getting caught out of position as they move a little bit more slowly. Same thing with those Sentries, and Sentries now getting pushed back. In comes one Photon Cannon, more units trying to be warped in. Zealots fighting back and forth. Stalkers continuing to use that, the Particles Disruptor, trying to focus down more of those units. But as Hydralisks join the army, those Stalkers are not going to be nearly as effective. However, no weapons upgrade for those Hydralisks or for those Roaches. Continuing the fight, not enough creep across the map as we already have some observers. 2 Colossus doing a great job, and now another force field catching some of those Hydralisks out of position. Zerglings now trying to do some sort of swarm as well, as more units now being warped in over here. So Zealots going to be joining in on this fight. Production-wise, we see Hydralisks, Roaches, and Zerglings continuing to be produced. Nexus, Hydralisks able to just focus down a lot of these units, and now in come some of these Roaches. One Colossus has been taken down. Hydralisks, do they? Yes, they do have the Groove Spines for that additional 1 range, and that is enough to stop this attack by Adelscott. So Adelscott now trying to hold off this attack. He does have a smaller army, but with Photon Cannons and that level 1 weapons upgrade, should be able to continue to hold off any sort of attack. However, Hydralisks are strong against Stalkers, just because of they are not armored units, and they also attack much more quickly, so their DPS is much faster. I believe almost like 60 to 70% higher. Back over here, we do have some Roaches as well, so it is going to be a Roach Hydra army. Overlord sitting here. Production wise, you now see a Spire getting the level 1 weapons upgrade and the Carapace upgrade as well. Another robotics facility coming into play, so we may be trying to train double Colossi in just a moment. So yeah, there's that second robotics facility, more Photon Cannons. And now in come these Roaches and Hydralisks trying to do a little bit of pressure, trying to take down some of these Photon Cannons. Extended thermal lance range already in position as these Hydralisks trying to take down some of this, a nice good flanking. However, the force field's causing those Roaches to retreat. Back over here, the army is continuing to just exchange blows, and down goes another Roach there. So now we see a chrono boosting a robotics facility. However, in comes some more Zerglings, and now this Nexus may get taken down. No. Chrono boosting a Colossus, but currently supply loss, so unable to train any additional units. Roaches now getting torn apart there as the Roaches continue to put a lot of pressure over here. Nexus down to about 200 hit points, make it taken down, and Adelscott will be running off of 2 bases compared to Liquid HayprO's 3, and that's going to be a very bad sign as the economy will start to crumble as the main bases are starting to be mined out, and it will be 3 bases to 2 in, or 3 bases to 1 in just a moment. That's very bad as a lot of these Hydralisks now getting caught out of position. And now Adelscott with a dominant army and able to fend off this attack. Stay tuned for part 2 of this replay between Adelscott and Liquid HayprO here on Scrap Station.